Harry blasts royal author. The Duke of Sussex is consumed with rage following the release of preview passages of a devastating new book about the Sussexes by Meghan Markle's arch nemesis, journalist Tom Bower. Now, Harry is not happy and has issued a furious statement against Tom Bower, an author that he describes as deranged, after his latest book claimed that Queen Camilla once said to a friend, "Meghan has brainwashed Harry."
On the morning of March 13th, 2026, the Times of London began publishing extracts from a new book by one of Britain's most feared royal biographers. The book is called Betrayal: Power, Deceit, and the Fight for the Future of the Royal Family. The author is Tom Bower, a 79-year-old investigative journalist who has spent decades writing books that powerful people desperately wish had never been written. His previous book about Harry and Meghan, published in 2022 and titled Revenge, became an international bestseller. This new one, based on years of additional research and new sources, picks up exactly where Revenge left off. Within hours of the first extracts appearing in the Times, Harry and Meghan's spokesperson issued a statement. They called the book a collection of deranged conspiracy and melodrama. They accused Bower of having long crossed the line from criticism into fixation. They said his language, in their view, speaks for itself. By the end of that same day, Betrayal had hit #1 on Amazon's bestseller chart. It had not even been published yet. Today we are going to take you through every significant claim in Tom Bower's Betrayal, every allegation, every quote, every revelation from the extracts that have been published so far. We are going to explain who Tom Bower is and why his books carry the weight they do. We are going to examine the Camilla brainwashing quote that has been the most searched phrase in Britain this week. We are going to look at what the book says about the Invictus Games, about the Sentebale charity, about Harry's friendships, his finances, and his fear of what William might one day do to his titles. And we are going to tell you why Harry and Meghan's response to this book may turn out to be the most counterproductive thing they have done in a very long time. We are going to take our time, because this is a story built on a real book with real claims, and you deserve to have every piece of it explained, clearly and fairly. So settle in, and let's begin.
Now, Harry has launched a shocking attack on Bower. It's incredibly indiscreet. Actually, Harry's the one that's deranged because he's so consumed with anger.
Before we get into the specific claims, let's understand who Tom Bower is. Because the weight his books carry in Britain is significant, and understanding why tells you a great deal about how this book is being received. Tom Bower is not a royal correspondent in the traditional sense. He is not someone who attends palace briefings or covers royal tours or maintains the cordial institutional relationships that most royal journalists depend on. He is an investigative biographer, a journalist who spends years interviewing sources, reading documents, and building a picture of his subjects from the outside in. His method, which he has described publicly and which gives you the clearest window into how he works, is this: find the victims. He looks for the people who feel they were wronged by the subject of his book, who feel they were used, dismissed, manipulated, or overlooked. And he listens to them carefully, in detail, over time. That method has produced some of the most significant British investigative biographies of the past 30 years. Books about Robert Maxwell, Richard Branson, Tony Blair, Gordon Brown. Books that their subjects furiously denied and that history has repeatedly validated. His 2022 book, Revenge, Meghan, Harry and the War Between the Windsors, was, by the accounts of those who read it carefully, a work of significant research. Its central argument, that Meghan had misrepresented her experience of the royal family and that Harry had been progressively isolated from the people who knew him best, was contested at the time and remains contested. But the specific factual claims it contained have, for in the years since, held up considerably better than Harry and Meghan's supporters initially predicted. Betrayal is the sequel, built on 4 additional years of research, published at a moment when the Sussex situation, financially, institutionally, and personally, is at its most publicly precarious. The timing is not coincidental. Bauer publishes when the material is ready and when the public appetite is highest. Both conditions are currently met. Now, if you are watching this for the first time and you want to follow every development from this book as it continues to be serialized, the full publication date is March 26, 2026, and there are more extracts still to come. Please subscribe right now. We cover the royal family in the depth and detail these stories deserve. Hit subscribe, turn on your notifications, and every new video comes straight to you. Let's start with the claim that has generated the most attention, the one that has been shared and searched and discussed more than any other element of the book so far. The Camilla brainwashing quote. According to Bauer's account of the summer of 2018, a period that was, by almost all accounts, the most turbulent of Harry's transition into his relationship with Meghan, Queen Camilla then, the Duchess of Cornwall, told a friend that Meghan had brainwashed Harry. The context in which this quote appears is important. Bauer is describing a period in which the tensions between the Sussexes and the rest of the royal family were escalating rapidly. Harry had, according to Bauer's account, begun behaving in ways that those who knew him found increasingly unrecognisable. He was, Bauer writes, ignoring his old friends to please Meghan. He had changed his telephone number without telling anyone in his family. The jovial, informal, self-deprecating young man who had spent his 20s surrounded by a wide and loyal social circle was becoming, in Bauer's description, someone possessed by seeking revenge, someone whose simple dislikes had hardened into passionate hatred, someone whose character, Bauer writes, increasingly mirrored Meghan's. It was in this context that Camilla reportedly made the comment to a friend, not in a formal setting, not in a palace communication, in a private conversation, in the way that people who are watching something worrying happen to someone they care about, sometimes find words for what they are seeing, brainwashed. That word has landed with enormous force in the British media this week, not because it is a word that anyone can easily verify or disprove, but because it captures, in a single stark term, something that a significant portion of the British public has believed for years, that the Harry who left the royal family in January 2020 was not quite the same person as the Harry who had existed before Meghan's influence became dominant. That something in him changed, that the change was not entirely his own. Bauer is careful in his account to note that this is what Camilla told a friend, not what he himself is asserting as fact. That distinction matters. He is reporting what was said, not offering it as his own confirmed analysis. Harry and Meghan's team has called the claim deranged conspiracy. That is their right. They dispute it. They have disputed similar claims before, but the claim is now in a published book that is #1 on Amazon, and the public is forming its own view. Now let's talk about William and Catherine. Because the Camilla quote is not the only significant royal reaction Bauer describes in his extracts. According to Bauer, William and Catherine believed that Meghan lamented Harry's unlikely chances of ever being king, just as she regretted the possibility that she would never be the Queen. That is a significant claim. It suggests that Meghan's dissatisfaction with her royal position was not simply about the institution's treatment of her, the racism allegations, the mental health crisis, the tabloid coverage, but included a more personal calculation about the limits of what she could achieve within the hierarchy. Bauer also describes Meghan as having become a divisive agent, a phrase that his sources in the royal family apparently used to describe how her presence was functioning within the relationships of the family. Not a disruptive element from the outside, but an active force of division operating from within. And in one of the most vivid scenes in the extracts published so far, Bauer describes a confrontation in which Meghan, during an argument with William, told him, and I want to be precise here, to get his finger out of her face. Camilla, who was present or nearby, is described as taken aback by the exchange. These are not easy allegations to read if you have been sympathetic to Harry and Meghan's account of their experience. Because the Sussex narrative, the one they have told in the Oprah interview, in the Netflix documentary, in Harry's memoir, has consistently positioned them as people who were treated badly by the family. People who were the recipients of hostility rather than its source. Bower's account, drawing on sources inside the royal family, tells a considerably more complicated story, one in which Meghan's own behaviour contributed to the tensions that ultimately produced the departure. The book does not negate everything Harry and Meghan have said about their experience. Families are complicated, and both things can be true simultaneously. But it offers a perspective, sourced, named in part, and consistent with accounts that have emerged from other directions over the years, that complicates the simple narrative of innocent victims and institutional villains. Let's pause here. We are at the midpoint of this story, and there is considerably more still to go. The Invictus claims, the Sentebale charity revelations, and the section of the book that addresses Harry's fear about his titles are all ahead of us. If you know someone who has been following the Sussex story and who would want to have all of these claims explained properly and in one place, please share this video with them now. It helps us reach more people, and it takes just a moment. Thank you. Let's talk about the Invictus Games. Because the claims Bower makes about the 2025 Games held in Canada are among the most damaging in the book, and they have already produced a formal response from the Invictus Games Foundation itself. The Invictus Games, for those who may be newer to this story, is an international sporting competition for wounded, injured, and sick service personnel and veterans. It was founded by Harry in 2014. It is the achievement that even Harry's harshest critics in Britain consistently acknowledge as genuine and significant. The competition brings together servicemen and women from multiple nations to compete in adaptive sports, events modified for athletes with physical and psychological injuries. It has grown from a single event in London to a regular international competition with a significant global profile. The claim Bower makes about the 2025 Games in Canada is specific and targeted. He describes the atmosphere at one wheelchair basketball match as subdued, noting that only 43 paying spectators attended and that approximately 100 additional people were brought in by organisers and positioned around Harry and Meghan for photographs. That claim, that the audience at the Invictus event was partly manufactured for optics, is a serious one if accurate. It suggests that the public impression of the game's popularity was not an organic reflection of spectator interest, but a staged visual designed to produce better photographs and coverage. The Invictus Games Foundation pushed back firmly. Their statement said it was disappointing to see the Times give prominence to commentary that appeared driven by a long-established agenda rather than a genuine understanding of the games and the community it serves. Bower also describes what he characterises as an American wheelchair basketball team that after their game wheeled themselves into a private area, stood up and walked away. His apparent implication being that the athletes in question were not visibly physically injured in the way the competition's audience might assume. Harry's representatives challenged this characterization directly, pointing out that Invictus was founded specifically to include those with invisible injuries, including post-traumatic stress disorder, and that Bower's framing represents a fundamental misunderstanding of what invisible injury means and how seriously it should be taken. This is the most contested element of the Bower extract so far, because the Invictus Games represents Harry's most credible and most widely respected legacy. An attack on its authenticity is not simply an attack on his public image. It is an attack on the thing that those who otherwise have no sympathy for Harry's choices tend to still credit him with having genuinely built. Whether Bower's specific claims about the 2025 Games are accurate is something that cannot be determined from the extracts alone. The Invictus Foundation's response is firm. The Harry team's response is firm, and the specific claim about 43 paying spectators is the kind of verifiable detail that will either be confirmed or contradicted by event records. What is clear is that the inclusion of these claims in Betrayal represents Bauer's most direct challenge yet to the one part of Harry's post-royal identity that has retained genuine public credibility. Now let's talk about the Sentebale charity. Because this section of Bauer's book is less well known than the Camilla quote or the Invictus claims, but is in some ways the most significant for what it reveals about Harry's pattern of behaviour in institutional settings. Sentebale is a charity Harry co-founded in 2006 with Prince Seeiso of Lesotho, a small mountain kingdom in southern Africa, to support children and young people affected by HIV and AIDS. The charity is named after the Sesotho word for forget-me-not and was established as a tribute to both founders' mothers. For Harry, it was a tribute to Princess Diana and to her work with HIV charities in the final years of her life. The chair of Sentebale until recently was a woman called Sophie Chandauka. Her departure from that role was not quiet. She publicly accused Harry of misogyny and racism in connection with how she was treated during her time at the charity. Those accusations produced significant coverage when they were made. Bauer revisits the Sentebale story in detail in Betrayal. He reports claims about the charity's financial history, including allegations about the proportion of funds raised that reached the children the charity was established to serve. He also describes, in some detail, conversations between Chandauka and Harry in which she warned him that corporate sponsors were reluctant to be associated with his victimhood narrative, and that the charity needed to reposition itself to attract the philanthropic investment it needed to grow. The detail in Bauer's account of the Sentebale situation that has attracted most attention is the conversation he describes between Harry and Chandauka, in which she told him, according to Bauer's account, that sponsors did not want his victimhood. They wanted his mission, not him personally. The distinction between the cause and the man who represents it is one that Harry, according to Bauer, struggled to accept. That struggle, if Bauer's account is accurate, illuminates something about Harry's relationship with his charitable work that goes beyond the specific Sentebale situation. The work he does, Invictus, Sentebale, his mental health advocacy, is genuinely important to him. But it exists in tension with the grievance narrative that has also defined his public life since 2020. And when institutional partners ask him to separate the cause from the personal story, the response has not always been the one those partners needed to hear. Let's now talk about the part of Bauer's book that I think will prove most prescient. The section that addresses Harry's relationship with power, specifically his fear of what William might one day do. Bauer writes about Harry's reaction to the public downfall of his uncle, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly Prince Andrew, in terms that are striking. The unpredicted and unimagined humiliation of Andrew shocked Harry, Bauer writes. Andrew had always been, in Harry's understanding, untouchable in the way that royals of his generation considered themselves untouchable. The shield of the title, the protection of the institution, the assumption that family loyalty would ultimately prevent the worst. Andrew's experience demonstrated that the shield was not permanent, that the institution would remove it when the cost of maintaining it became too high. That family loyalty had a threshold above which institutional survival took precedence, and Bauer writes that Harry, watching all of that, now fears something specific. He fears that the future King William could remove all the Sussex titles and effectively banish him from Britain. Read that again. Not the present king, the future king. Harry is not afraid of what Charles will do. He is afraid of what William will do once the throne is his. That fear is not irrational. William has, through the conduct protocol and the institutional restructuring of the past year, demonstrated clearly that he is prepared to make decisions that previous generations of the royal family would have found unthinkable. He has shown that the new regime he is building is one in which title and status are conditional rather than unconditional, in which the privilege of belonging to the House of Windsor is contingent on meeting the standards that the institution sets. Harry's titles, the Duke of Sussex, the Prince, the position in the line of succession, currently remain in place because Charles has not moved to remove them and because the grounds for doing so have not been formally established. But Charles's reign will not last forever, and the king who follows him is a man who has already demonstrated that the era of royal privilege without accountability is over. Bower's inclusion of this fear in his book is not sensationalism. It is a serious observation about where Harry's mind is and what keeps him from being entirely at peace with the life he has chosen. He left the institution, but he has not fully left the reach of the institution. And the institution, under its future leadership, may one day reach further than he anticipated. Let's talk about why Harry and Meghan's response to this book, calling it deranged conspiracy and melodrama and publicly attacking Bower's credibility, may ultimately prove to be a significant strategic miscalculation. Tom Bower's 2022 book Revenge hit #1. Harry and Meghan attacked it. The attacks generated enormous coverage. The coverage sold more books. The book remained #1 for an extended period. Betrayal had not yet been published when Harry and Meghan's team issued their statement condemning it. By the end of the same day their statement was published, Betrayal had hit #1 on Amazon. Their statement specifically drew attention to a quote from Bower in which he described the monarchy as depending on obliterating the Sussexes. That quote, which their statement presented as evidence of his biased agenda, was immediately shared by thousands of people who found it less damning than they apparently expected. Many of whom then went to Amazon to find out what else the man who said that had written. Harry and Meghan's communications team faces a problem that is structural rather than tactical. Every time they respond to a book or a journalist or an interviewer, they amplify the content they are trying to suppress. The Streisand effect, the well-documented phenomenon in which attempts to suppress information generate far more attention for that information than would have existed without the attempt, operates against them consistently and powerfully. The deranged conspiracy statement has been more widely shared than any of Bower's actual claims. It has introduced betrayal to audiences who had not been following the serialisation in the Times. It has, in the clearest possible way, done Bower's marketing work for him. The book is published on March 26, 2026. There are more extracts still to come, and each extract will be accompanied in all probability by another statement from the Sussex communications team describing it as an outrage, and each statement will send more people to Amazon. Let's end where this story finds its most human dimension. Because underneath the media dynamics and the competing narratives and the bestseller charts and the formal statements, there is a real human situation. There is a man who changed his life fundamentally, who walked away from everything he knew, who has now had that life described in forensic and unflattering detail by one of Britain's most persistent and most skilled biographers, not once but twice. Who knows, as the second book hits #1 before its publication date, that the world's picture of him is being shaped again by sources he cannot identify and accounts he cannot fully rebut. And there is a woman whose journey from American actress to royal duchess to California lifestyle brand founder has been documented with a relentlessness that she and those who care about her find genuinely painful. Who is described in this book as a divisive agent, as someone who lamented the limits of what the royal hierarchy would give her, as someone who told the future King of England to get his finger out of her face. Neither of those descriptions is the full truth of either person. Full truth is almost never available in a biography, however well researched. It is available only to the people who lived the life. What Tom Bower has done again is produce the most detailed and most sourced version of the story that his particular method, Find the Victims, allows him to construct. That version is important evidence. It is not the complete picture. The complete picture belongs to Harry and Meghan, and it will be visible eventually, not in the books that are written about them, but in the life they actually managed to build from where they currently stand. That life is still being lived, and what it becomes depends on decisions that no biographer can make for them. Thank you so much for watching today all the way to the end. This is one of the most carefully researched stories we have covered on this channel, and we are grateful to everyone who stayed with it through all of it. If it gave you something to think about, please leave a comment below. Tell us whether you believe Bauer's account, specifically the brainwashing claim, or whether you think Harry and Meghan's characterization of the book as a conspiracy is closer to the truth. We read every comment, and your perspective genuinely shapes what we cover next. And if you are not yet subscribed, please do it now. Click subscribe, turn on your notifications, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you. We will see you soon.